wrap up time? Wrap up time! It is wrap up time. I've been seeing across booktube, across the internet, that a lot of people have been doing quarterly wrap-ups instead of monthly. And I like that idea a ton. You know, my thought process when I'm planning videos for the month, I go, you know, I'll do a monthly wrap-up, I'll do a monthly TBR video, and I don't do any of them. I don't do a single one. It's because I enjoy filming the bigger things. Sometimes I just feel like I can't be bothered, which sounds so bad. But the idea of doing it every 3 months is very attractive. So that's what we're gonna do. I guess technically I did do a wrap-up in January. We'll revisit that just because, we're gonna keep in spirit with the quarterly wrap-up. So I guess I better get Goodreads. So I've read 50 whole... No, I haven't. Oh my gosh. My goal for the year was to read 50 books. Goodreads technically says that I've read 23. That is not true. I soft DNF'd 3 of those books. So technically I've only read 20, I think. We're gonna find out if I've actually read 20 books. Because we all know how Goodreads like to play games. You know what I mean? What's next? Oh, there it is. What is next? All right. January. What is crazy about friggin' January is that most of the books that I read aren't mine. They are my wife's. They're her books and I'm just reading them. But okay, starting from the very beginning, tippity top of the iceberg, I began the year with reading Dead House Gates by Steven Erikson. This is the second book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen 10-book epic fantasy experience, and it's a book that I failed to read 3 times last year. Every time I tried to pick it up, I got knocked back down. This year, I finally conquered it. And I can say there's some good stuff about it, but I honestly can't remember a single thing. The only thing that I know about this series so far is that I like Erikson's prose. His writing is beautiful. It's everything that I want in an author's writing style. It hooks me, but then the story gets involved and the world building gets involved and I just get so bloody bogged down. It's so hard to follow where I'm at. And that's, I'm not the only one who suffers from, Malazan comprehension syndrome. MCF. It's just not, what am I trying to say? I think it's good enough that I want to continue, but boy, was it a freaking hurdle. I gave it a 3-star. The next book that I read is actually a romance novel. One Day in December by Mr. Jose Silva. This was freaking so fun. I don't know, I really enjoy a story that kind of takes you on 10 years of characters' lives. These 2 people meet at a bus station and they fall in love immediately and then they're separated forever. Then the rest of the book is drama after romantic drama. I cannot remember, what did I give this book? I gave it like a 3.5, I think, something like that. It was good. I like Josie Silver's writing. Then again, it was for a book swap, so it wasn't a book that I was just overly keen to read on my own. Next was The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. What an experience this was. I'm all about Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I still haven't finished either one of her series. This was the best book of hers that I've read so far. Teenage criminal minds, FBI, serial killer hunters. Excellent. I gave this a solid 4 stars, I'm pretty sure. And then the last book swap book was The Love Hypothesis by Allie Flippin' Hazelwood. This is a STEM romance. Very, very funny. Excellent humor in this book. I laughed out loud several times. Again, romance isn't my thing, but I'm super open-minded to it. And this is one of Ashlyn's favorite, nearest and dearest book to her heart. And so I was excited to read something that she loved. I think I gave this a 3.25 just because there were some characters that I didn't really care for, and then of course the sexual stuff. And then, oh my goodness, I tried to read One Dark Window in one sitting. It was okay. It was okay. There's certain boxes that I have for fantasy, and this didn't really check any of them. So maybe gothic fantasy's not for me, but this just, I don't know, this did not pay the bills, if you know what I'm saying. So I think I gave it, what, I gave it 3 stars? Yeah, 3 stars seems fitting. And then the last and final book that I read for the month of January was Stephen King's Needful Things. Ooh, such a good book. But of course we know that on this channel that I am freaking fiend for some Stephen King. Needful Things was my first Stephen King read of the year, but this was so good. Psychological horror, the twists and turns, the writing, the characters, everything about this book was so good. There was some slight sexual stuff that kind of made it uncomfortable at points, so you just skip that over. This was a 4.75. Excellent, excellent. So far, this has been the scariest to me of his horror novels. So good. And that was my January. All right, now we're gonna put these back. Okay, what do we have for? Was that my, oh my gosh, that was my freaking February? Oh my goodness. That one. Is that it? Is that everything? I'm convinced it is. Okay, February. Starting off the month, I was still trying to finish up Throne of Glass series, and so February started off with the tandem read. That is Empire of Storms and The Kingdom. It's not the Kingdom of Ash, you silly person. Tower of Dawn. These two books are usually read in tandem if you're gonna read them in the reading order that fans genuinely read the series in. Excellent experience. Sarah J. Maas has one of the most underrated fantasy series out there. I know it is popular in its own space, but when it comes to the broad spectrum of fantasy readers, especially adult fantasy readers, this is always overlooked. And I think these two books alone are worth the entire trip. What you get in these two books is so freaking fun. I think I gave this a 4.25, and I think I gave this a 3.5, but together they're like a solid 4.5 experience because it ends up being like a 1,300 page book, and it's awesome. Next I kind of deviated from the series that I was in the middle of. Did a fun little project for Valentine's Day, which was reading my wife's romance books and the books that she gave me to read. The first of those was The 7-Year Slip by Miss Ashley Boston. Boy, was not expecting this journey, but let's just say time travel romance, kind of, in a way. Time travel romance. 4 stars out of 5. I was that impressed. I liked the characters. I liked the plot. I liked the writing. There was no weird, stupid miscommunication for no dumb reason. Very good. Very much appreciated. Next was huge. One of the biggest books last year in the romance section, just on booktube in general, I think. Happy Place by Emily Henry. I'm very happy that I read this book because I get the hype. I really do. I get the hype. It was my first ever Emily Henry experience. She's a very witty writer. She's more on the like literary fiction side than just normal, what you would think, just kind of base romance. This was such an experience. I loved the story. I loved everything about the characters. There was a little bit of miscommunication, but it made sense and it was resolved in a good way. And I was invested in each character's lives. So this was a 4-star. It really was. Excuse me if I'm talking fast. I don't want this video to be, you know, crazy long. I kind of want to just kind of poop this one out there. I just want to get it done, okay? Disregard my vulgarity. Love in Other Words by Christina and Lauren. I hated this book. I hated this book. I explained it more in the video that I made of it, but I just did not care. I couldn't bring myself to care about the characters, about what was going on in their lives. I sympathize with Macy, but Macy's the whole main reason why I hate the book. I didn't fall in love with her like I did Harriet or whatever her name was from 7-Year Slip. It slipped my mind, pun intended. I think I gave it a 2-star, 2.25, 2.5, somewhere in there. I was not vibing with that book. And then I started the book swap that has just recently come out. Go check that out. I swapped series with my sister. So February was when I started reading those books, and they are, compose yourself. Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. I'm not gonna go into this, just go watch that video. 2.75. And then of course I followed that up with the worst book I've read all year. Gross, atrocious, horrible, nasty Newman. It doesn't even deserve me to even talk about it any further. It was that bad. It was a 1.5. It's the lowest rating I've ever given a book since I read American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. It's such a bad book. Oh my gosh. Okay, but then I ended the month on a very strong note. I finished Throne of Glass. I read this freaking door stopper, 980 pages of Kingdom of Ash. Yes. Oh yes. Fantasy community, this book alone is why Throne of Glass just deserves all the praise it can get. Gosh! Oh my gosh, what can I even say about this? There's so many moments. There's still so many things about this book that I think about because going along in an 8-book series is really just an experience. It doesn't matter what author you read, and Sarah J. Maas just pulls off something so spectacular and incredible. This is one of my top series right now that I've read in a long time because the story goes in places you don't expect. The character arcs happen in a way that you don't expect. It was just, oh man, it was just fantastic. And this is like a crowning achievement in that series. Everything that she was weaving from the very beginning had its end beautifully in this. This was a 4-star for me. You know, I love big books. We all know I love big books, and I love the size of this book, but there were some things that I thought could have been trimmed down. Can I even put all these in my hand? Oh my gosh. And that was February. 8 books? Golly. Well, that's crazy. Okay, we're almost done. That's crazy. This is gonna be the shortest video I've filmed in a very long time. I did not read that many books in March. And finally, things slowed down a little bit in March because after February and finishing such a grand series like Throne of Glass and starting a series like Twilight, and then in between that reading romance novels, which is something I don't do regularly, I was kind of slipping into a reading slump just a little bit. There are a few ways that I try to do to get out of reading slumps, and one of those is reading authors that I trust and know and like. And so of course, who did I run to? You guessed it, Stephen King. Of course I did. I went on to Duma Key. Oh my gosh. This was the first 5-star read of the year. This was so good. This was so good. You know, I thought Needful Things was a great start. Duma Key freaking blows it out of the water. The journey that you go on with Edgar freaking Fremantle. I was speechless. I try to jump into Stephen King blind. I don't really want to know what's going on in the book. And thankfully, the back doesn't really tell you what's going to happen. It didn't feel like it was going to be a horror novel. It ended up being like a thriller, mystery, horror, suspense combined. Of course, that's what Stephen King always does. He combines things. This was like a hodgepodge cocktail of just perfection. This was so good. I want to reread it soon. I cannot say enough good things about this book. This is one of my favorite Stephen King books ever. Next, I knew that I had to get this done in decent order. And so the Twilight Project, I had to go back to that. I couldn't just let that sit there forever. So after reading a book that got me back out of a slump, I went into books that were potentially going to get me back into a slump. Eclipse, 3rd book in the Twilight Saga. Still probably the best book of the quartet. It's still not good. Oh no, it is still not good, but it has better tropes, and I feel like it was more thought out, and I don't know, it was okay. It was a 2.75. I mean, nothing real special to it. And then I just had to rip off the Band-Aid. I choked down Breaking Dawn. Oh, the first like 40% of this book is so cringe, and the ending, of course, did nothing to relieve me of my pain. It just added to my sorrow, and I felt so betrayed and cheated. I DNF'd it with 50 pages left because I did not give a crap how it was going to end. After the climax deflated like a freaking hot air balloon catching on fire. 2.75. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably more like a 2.25 or 2. Sucks. It's so bad. How do I make myself feel better as a reader after reading something I don't like? You guessed it. I went back to Stephen King, and that's exactly what I did. I read Under the Dome. This incredible novel. Isn't she chunky? Oh gosh, she's beautiful. Yes, precious. Yes, precious. I fell in love with this book. Of course, I knew I would. As soon as I felt it on my hands, as soon as I saw that man's beautiful face on the back, I knew I was gonna love it. And I read it in 4 days. Well, doing a 24-hour challenge, but still, I read it in like 4 days. It's almost 1,100 pages. It's nearly perfect. There were some aspects about this book that were a little unsavory, and some of his treatment of certain characters I didn't appreciate. So I think I gave it a 4-star all the way around. But everything else is just absolutely magical. Only Stephen King could write a book like this. I really do believe that. I don't think any other author, even authors that I love, I still don't think could write this story the way he did. So good. The last and final book of March, and the last and final book of this video, was a mood read, which was A Harvest of Ash and Blood by DJ Moles. Yeah, that cover speaks for itself. That is blood. This part's a little more watered down. This seems to be coming from several wounds. Yeah, this is just bloodthirsty, gut-punching fantasy. It's totally grimdark. If you're a fan of The First Law or Mark Lawrence or any of those guys that like to just get violent and brutal and descriptive, then this book is for you. I enjoyed the plot when the plot was progressing. Felt like 75% of this was just people killing each other, and then 25% plot is moving forward. But it was still good enough and interesting enough that I hope there's a sequel. Because if there's a sequel and this ends up becoming like a trilogy or however long J.J. Moles wants to make this and drag it out, I'm here for it. I would readily pick up a sequel of this book. I think I gave it a 3.75, and that still stands. You know, 3.75 is a solid book. 3.75 kind of screams to me that there were some things you didn't appreciate about it, but for the most part, you enjoyed your time. So, and that was me. I enjoyed my time with this. So, pretty slow down. I love it. Slowing it down. Freaking amazing. 2 Stephen King books in a freaking month. Let's put them back. That's about it. That is about it. So how many did we actually read? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So we're only at 19 books. We'll probably surpass the 50 mark, but I'm gonna try to not make that anytime soon. I know last summer I was like reading 10, 12, 15 books a month, and that, I don't know, that's a surefire way to have a burnout. And so I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to take my time and really enjoy the books that I'm reading. I mean, for instance, it's right here. When did I start you? I started Gone with the Wind shortly after finishing Breaking Dawn. I started this a little bit before starting Under the Dome. No, I forget when I started this. Was it after Doom and Key? I started this sometime in like either early or middle or late March. But I'm still, I mean, I'm only what? I'm on page 446. And there's 959 pages. But it's taken me forever to read it. And it's not because it's a bad book, it's because I'm pacing myself. And I kind of read it in between other books. Now, I know some people can't do that, but I don't know. I kind of enjoy doing that with these longer books that I'm not really dedicating like a full-on video for it. I'm trying to slow it down. I'm not trying to just blitz through books. I think sometimes, I feel like booktube can kind of get a bad rap or sour taste in people's mouths because, you know, I feel like some of these creators feel like they have to read a ton of books when they don't have to. That's the beauty about this. You just read at your own pace. Content comes and goes, so you don't have to feel the pressure, and I certainly don't feel any pressure by anybody to read 100 plus books in a year. That's never gonna be my goal because I feel like if I did that, I couldn't remember a single thing. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have as much fun as I'm having reading some of these books in the ways that I'm doing it. Folks, thank you so much for all the support you've shown me this year. This year has been a crazy, crazy year for this channel. I've just met so many new friends and made so many new friends and connected with so many wonderful folks. Booktube is still just the greatest thing on the internet. I'm convinced of that. I love you all so much, and I cannot wait till the next quarterly wrap up to see what we do then. I'm gonna stop rambling and I'm gonna go eat a cookie. So see you in the next one.